Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about more of planning for your garden. Is also going to depend on what you want to use your garden for. If you're wanting to just have fresh vegetables, then that's one option. Obviously, you're not going to need to plant as much, but if you're also wanting to preserve them so you can eat them later on in the year, that's just something else that you would need to think about is where you're going to store yours. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of what we use. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. I do quite a bit of canning. And so I happened to get these old shelving from my grandmother, and it's literally just a metal bracket with some wood on it. So that right there, it doesn't have to cost much money. You do need a little bit more space for this. You could also just make and store what you have room to store. You can get any kind of cabinets. We have cabinets to help store our supplies when we have finished with them, so we're ready for the next year. But it's also a good idea to think about how you're going to process your food. Are you going to can it, or are you going to freeze it? And I do a mixture of both. Basically, I'll can until I run out of storage space, and then I will freeze. And I kind of want to show you what we use to freeze our stuff in as well. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I think the most important thing about homesteading or preserving your food is to just use what you have and to have as little waste as possible. I'm going to show you right now, and I'm going to be honest, this is not perfect. So actually they do make actual storage containers like this. These are an actual freezer container, but we honestly just keep our old cottage cheese, and then we get by our yogurts. We just keep those containers and we freeze them in there. And if you think about it, it's not costing us anything, right? This is about the perfect amount. Typically I use this for my applesauce, sometimes soups if I pre-make, corn sometimes. Just about anything that can fit in it. If I have a tomato that didn't seal, I'll just throw it in one of those. That way I'm not wasting it, and put it in the freezer. But I think it's important to minimize your waste. This also minimizes your cost. You're not going out and buying a bunch of containers or anything fancy like that. The point of having a garden and homesteading is to minimize your costs as well. And so if I'm not spending money on food, I don't want to go and spend it on a bunch of things like freezer containers or anything like that. So we try to reuse that as much as possible. Even if you would like, you could reach out to other people and ask them if they had of any that they're trying to recycle or anything. Again, it saves on waste and you're reusing them. And I'll just kind of show you, the reason why I'm talking about this now, it's a good time to plan, is because now would be the time to start saving them, right? We have a old locker. I guess this happened to be in the house when we bought it, and we just fill it. Not organized. Again, life is not perfect, especially when you're homesteading. And as soon as we eat something, we'll clean it up and just shove it in here. That way we are ready for next year. Another thing, if you're going to can, you're going to want to make sure that you have a place that you can store that's not going to freeze. Obviously, we're, down here, we have the heat from the house, and so in theory, this will not freeze. If you're going to store some things like potatoes and squash and pumpkins, need to be in a cool, dark area. So your basement, perfect for that. This is just where we have some sweet potatoes, and we have some butternut squash that we have storing as well. So really things that you really need to know about where to set up your storage at is, if you're going to be trying to store whole foods like that, they need to be, like potatoes and squash, they need to be in a cool, dark space. Like a basement would be perfect. Where our basement is not finished, it's not heated as much as upstairs, so it's the perfect place for those so they don't go bad. But you also want it to be warm enough so like your canned goods don't freeze. And again, when we get to doing stuff in the garden, I will be doing both freezing and canning, just to kind of show you both options. And we use both options here, just depending on what we have room for. So just another thing to keep in mind when you're starting to think about planting your garden. Thanks, guys.